Welcome to My Books and Storytime by Mybooksandstorytime. Let's explore. Charlotte Bronté's Jane Eyre, published in 1847, is a timeless classic that combines elements of romance, mystery, and social criticism. The novel follows the journey of Jane Eyre, an orphan who faces hardship and injustice, but remains steadfast in her pursuit of love, independence, and self-respect. Told from Jane's perspective, the novel explores themes of morality, gender equality, and the struggle between passion and principle. What makes Jane Eyre stand out is its strong-willed heroine, who refuses to conform to the expectations of Victorian society. Unlike the submissive women often portrayed in 19th-century literature, Jane values her dignity and integrity above all else. Her love story with Mr. Rochester is not just about romance. It is about two flawed individuals striving to find happiness without compromising their values. A difficult childhood, Gateshead and Lowood School. Jane Eyre's story begins at Gateshead Hall, where she lives with her wealthy aunt, Mrs. Reed, and her cousins John, Eliza, and Georgiana. Orphaned as a baby, Jane is treated as an outcast in the Reed household. John bullies her relentlessly, while Mrs. Reed punishes her without reason. Unlike other children who might cower under such oppression, Jane is fiery and outspoken. She fights back against John and refuses to accept her aunt's cruelty without protest. One day, after a confrontation with John, Jane is locked in the Red Room, a chilling chamber where her uncle died. She becomes hysterical, convinced she sees his ghost. Instead of comforting her, Mrs. Reed labels Jane as ungrateful and rebellious. Eventually, she decides to send Jane away to Lowood Institution, a charity school for orphan girls. Lowood is a harsh place. The headmaster, Mr. Brocklehurst, is a hypocritical clergyman who preaches humility while living in comfort himself. He humiliates Jane in front of the entire school, calling her a liar. However, Jane finds a kindred spirit in Helen Burns, a gentle, intelligent girl who teaches her patience and forgiveness. Helen, however, is sickly and eventually dies of consumption, a moment that deeply impacts Jane. Despite the hardships, Jane thrives at Lowood. A new superintendent, Miss Temple, brings reform, making the school a better place. Jane stays on as a teacher until she grows restless and desires something more, a new life beyond the school's walls. A new beginning, Thornfield Hall in Mr. Rochester. Jane advertises for a governess position and is hired at Thornfield Hall to teach Adele, the ward of Edward Fairfax Rochester, the master of the estate. At first, Thornfield seems quiet and uneventful. However, Jane soon hears strange laughter echoing through the halls, a mystery that unsettles her. When she finally meets Mr. Rochester, he is nothing like the charming gentleman in romantic tales. He is brooding, abrupt, and moody, but Jane is intrigued by him. Unlike others who flatter him, she speaks her mind, challenging him intellectually. Rochester, too, finds himself drawn to Jane's sharp wit and honesty. Their conversations are lively, filled with banter and deep discussions about morality and love. As time passes, Jane realizes she has fallen in love with Rochester, though she believes he will never return her affections. Matters become more complicated when he invites wealthy guests to Thornfield, including the beautiful and aristocratic Blanche Ingram. Rumors spread that Rochester will marry Blanche, which causes Jane great pain. However, Rochester has no intention of marrying Blanche. Instead, in a dramatic revelation, he confesses his love for Jane and proposes to her. Overcome with emotion, Jane accepts. It seems as though happiness is finally within reach, but Thornfield holds a dark secret that threatens to destroy everything. The secret in the attic, betrayal and escape. On the morning of their wedding, a lawyer named Mr. Briggs interrupts the ceremony, revealing that Rochester is already married. His wife, Bertha Mason, is alive and living in Thornfield's attic. Jane is horrified. She learns that Bertha, once a beautiful and wealthy Creole woman from Jamaica, descended into madness. Rochester, unable to divorce her, kept her locked away under the care of a servant, Grace Poole. Although Rochester pleads with Jane to stay, offering to live with her as husband and wife without a legal marriage, Jane refuses. Her moral principles will not allow her to be his mistress. Heartbroken, she flees Thornfield in the middle of the night, Penniless and alone. A test of faith. Life with the Rivers family. After wandering in the wilderness, Jane collapses at the doorstep of the Rivers family. St. John, Diana, and Mary. They nurse her back to health, and Jane gradually becomes close to them. St. John, a devout clergyman, offers her a teaching position in a small school for poor girls. One day, St. John discovers Jane's true identity and reveals that she has inherited a fortune from a long-lost uncle. Overjoyed, Jane shares the money with the Rivers siblings, who turn out to be her cousins. St. John, believing Jane would make a perfect missionary's wife, asks her to marry him and accompany him to India. However, his proposal is cold and devoid of love. Jane knows that if she marries him, she will live a life of duty but not happiness. Just as she is about to make a decision, Jane hears Rochester's voice calling her name. A mysterious, supernatural connection that she cannot explain. She realizes she must return to him. Reunion and redemption. The end of Jane's journey. Jane returns to Thornfield, only to find it in ruins. She learns that after she left, Bertha set fire to the house and perished in the flames. Rochester, in his attempt to save her, lost his sight in one of his hands. Jane finds Rochester living in seclusion at Ferndean Manor, blind and full of despair. Seeing him vulnerable yet unchanged in spirit, Jane declares her love. This time, their love is equal. Rochester, no longer the proud, dominant man, now depends on Jane, and she willingly chooses him. They marry, and over time, Rochester regains partial vision, allowing him to see their first child. Final thoughts. The significance of Jane Eyre. A story of independence and self-respect. Jane's journey is one of self-discovery and resilience. From childhood, she refuses to be mistreated, standing up for herself even when it brings her suffering. Unlike many heroines of her time, Jane does not rely on wealth or beauty to secure her future. She relies on her intelligence, strength, and moral integrity. Her refusal to become Rochester's mistress, despite her deep love for him, is a powerful statement about self-respect. Jane will not sacrifice her principles for passion. She leaves not because she does not love Rochester, but because she loves herself enough to demand respect. A revolutionary heroine. In a time when women were expected to be submissive and dependent, Jane's defiance was revolutionary. She refuses to marry St. John because she will not be forced into a loveless union. She chooses Rochester only when they can be equals. Jane proves that love should not come at the cost of self-respect. Love as a partnership. Unlike many romantic novels, Jane Eyre does not glorify love at the expense of character. Jane and Rochester's love is not based on superficial attraction, but on intellectual and emotional compatibility. Their final union is not about dominance, but about mutual understanding and growth. A timeless tale. Jane Eyre remains relevant today because it speaks to the universal human experience, the need for love, respect, and purpose. Jane's struggles are those of any person fighting against societal expectations, seeking to live life on their own terms. Charlotte Bronté's masterpiece is more than a love story. It is a declaration of independence, a testament to resilience, and a celebration of a woman who refused to settle for anything less than what she deserved. Stay tuned for more enlightening content. Head over to www.mybooksandstorytime.com. Don't forget to subscribe and share the magic with friends. And let's grow together through the power of books and interesting stories.